Hello, everyone. I'm finally here, an hour and 20 minutes late, but I've finally made it to the weekly live show, the Truth of Therapy Sessions number 49. 49 episodes. I'm going to have to do something special for 50, aren't I? Anyway, guys, how are we all doing? Let me just get the chat doc up here so I can see who I have got, if anyone's still waiting around. That is. I'm still waiting for some information to come through. I don't really know much about the stream right now, who's here or what's going on. There you go, it's all loading in now. 30 viewers, excellent. So you guys have been waiting for a long time. Sorry about that. Naturally, father's duties came first. My son has decided to stay awake way past his bedtime over the past few nights. And the only thing that seems to get him down is for me to go and sit there next to his bed, give him my arm, and let him just play with my hand for a little bit. And then eventually he just passes out. So I've just been doing that for the past 40 minutes. Eventually he was out. And I've made myself a nice green tea. Let me just quickly swap over the camera here. There we go. How are we all doing? Yeah, so if people saw my recent post, yeah, I'm currently attempting to do everything I can to chelate the iron out of my body. Yeah, I was diagnosed with hemochromatosis. It turns out it's a genetic condition passed down to me from my mother and my father, both carrying a particular gene. And when they had me, those two genes came together and activated, and now I can't process iron. And as a result of iron overload, I now have tiny pieces of metal in my joints and in all of my major vital organs. And it's just more and more is getting piled on top of it the longer I go, without treatment, and the higher the risk to causing severe damage to my vital organs the longer I go without treatment, because like I said, the more iron that gets built up, and if it continues this way and I do have irreparable damage to my liver, let's say, that could develop into cirrhosis, which means I could die in 12 years' time, basically. But then that's the same, it could happen in my heart, my pancreas, anywhere. So pretty harrowing, worrying times. So for the past few days, while I'm waiting for my doctors to basically pull the finger out their ass and actually do something about this, I rang them today. Turns out they never actually referred me to a specialist. The letter went to the wrong place, so I've been waiting for 2 weeks to hear back from nobody. So I'm 2 weeks behind on this whole process, and it's becoming a bit of a nightmare for me and my family. But I'm actually feeling a bit better today, because like I said, I've started chelating the iron out of my system myself. Now, I already know what you're thinking. All you need to do is just go donate your blood, Paul. Just go and get your blood drained. You can't just do that in the UK. You have to go through the National Health Service, and they have to screen you, test your blood, and if you have hemochromatosis like me, you cannot donate blood until you have been treated and got your iron levels back down to a normal, healthy level. And that could take months of treatment to do that. So I understand a lot of people out there are suggesting the simple fix, and I understand that's the simple fix. I just need to get my blood drained regularly to get the iron physically out of me. I am waiting for that treatment. I cannot just go and get it drained somewhere. It's not like America. We don't have blood banks that pay you for your blood or anything like it. It just doesn't exist here. That's the way it is, unfortunately. I'm just on a list, and I've been following it all up today, and it turns out, like I said, I've been waiting for nothing. The system failed miserably. My doctors sent the expedition letter to get my treatment to the wrong people, and I've been waiting for nothing. So I'm starting the whole process again. Hopefully I'll get a phone call tomorrow that will correct the problem. If not, I'm probably going to sue somebody, because this is getting way out of hand now. It's been one major mistake, shall we say, after another with this whole process. Yeah. So what I'm doing, I'm chelating the iron out of my blood by taking milk thistle. Thanks to MK Ryan for the suggestion on that one. I've been taking it for 2 days now, and initially it was pretty rough on the body, but I'm definitely feeling a lot better. And I am now drinking green tea, because apparently that is really good for this and keeping the liver healthy and stopping the body from absorbing iron. just terrible. Absolutely awful. But there you go. That's the things you've got to do for your health, isn't it? So yeah, that's where I'm at currently. And that's why I couldn't do the show yesterday. I was just in way too much pain. It's severe, extreme fatigue is the only way to describe it. I could barely lift my own head up without feeling like I wanted to vomit, basically. It goes in waves, depends on how overloaded my body is at a time. But now I've basically begun to fast. I've cut out all sugars and carbs. And that's rough on the body as well, because they're highly addictive, aren't they? But I'm doing everything I can to cause as minimal amount of damage to my organs as possible until I get this treatment. So yeah, I know a lot of you in the comments suggested, you just need to go on a carnivore diet, and this is nothing to do with that. This is not like my diet has caused this condition. Okay, this condition means I have to change my diet. It's the other way around. Okay, switching to red meat, nothing but red meat, cutting out carbs, is actually incredibly dangerous for me. That is the worst possible thing I could do. Blood-containing meats like red meat have more iron in than anything, and it's heme iron. It's a bad type of iron. A normal person would absorb about 20% of the iron in a steak. I would absorb all of it, and I would not get rid of it, and it would kill me, basically. It would cause me to be in extreme pain, and I'd have a flare-up, and I wouldn't be able to get up the next day, as my body struggles to process the excess iron that's now in my system. So the carnivore, changing my diet like that is not going to help me in any way. What I need to do is basically become a vegetarian. That's literally what the only option is. I need to switch to plant-based irons and proteins, because the body doesn't absorb plant-based iron as easily as it does absorb meat-based iron. So, I understand a lot of suggestions came through that this is just simply parasites, you just need to fast, or you just need to go on a carnivore diet. That has no basis in my condition whatsoever. This isn't caused by anything I've done. This is just a genetic corruption within my DNA that cannot be removed, and I was born with, basically. And that's as simple as that. The only treatment is to either take iron chelators, which aren't a very powerful, but definitely help maintain a healthy iron level. But I need to regularly have my blood taken out of my body. That's the only way it's going to work. But yeah, there's an update on my health anyway to open the show and what's been going on. Thanks for all the support in the in the post I made about this. But yeah, I under a lot of your advice, unfortunately. Though I know it's placed in good faith, it's not. It's actually not as useful as you think it is. It's a very strange condition. It's pretty ironic, because someone did mention this as well, and I discovered I had this condition 2 weeks after making a video about it, talking about how the Nephilim likely had this condition. And I don't know what that means for me exactly, but it's funny because it's called the Curse of the Celts. It's predominantly a white European problem. Other races can get it, but predominantly it's extremely common in Northern European people, the white people. And it's, look at me, I'm as Northern European as it can get. So I basically got this Celtic curse, and I theorized, that the Nephilim, having incredibly pale white skin, were likely susceptible to this same issue of developing this condition. And it can develop in two ways. Either it can be high iron, or it can be extreme rosacea. I don't have the rosacea issue. I mean, I go a little bit red, but I don't have rosacea as a problem. And the extreme form of the rosacea version can lead to a huge, big, red, bulbous nose. Like a clown nose. So that's why I theorized about this. The other side of the Celtic curse is it can manifest as an inability to process iron in the blood. I've got that version of the curse. And I'm glad I don't have the rhino fiber one, because that would just look awful. I kind of like my nose, I think it's quite a good shape as it is. But you know, after theorizing that the Nephilim may have had the curse of the Celts, 2 weeks later I find out, no, you've got it, Paul. There you go. So estrogen. I'm already aware of that. Yeah. I'm not looking to start eating pork. Is quite bad, really bad as well, or lamb, things like that. What I can eat is lean fat. You know, as minimal fat. Fat is really bad as well because it helps. It combines iron into your blood even more. But I can eat chicken basically and fish. But I can only I can eat tuna maybe like once a week, but I shouldn't have much more because there's quite a lot of iron in tuna. But tuna contains loads of other really beneficial chemicals for my condition, so it's worth eating it at least once a week with things that can prevent the absorption of iron. Like drinking milk, for example, with a meal stops you from absorbing as much iron. There's something in calcium that stops you from keeping it in your body. It makes it pass straight through, and then so things like I'm learning tricks and things like this which I've been using for the past few days, and today I do feel a lot better. I woke up with a pounding headache this morning because I've not had any sugar, but that seems to have passed a little bit now. But yeah, I feel a bit better today, you know, not as fatigued or tired. But yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough. I'm not gonna lie. But today, you know, we're going to talk about something else. So there's an update on my health if people were wondering what was going on there. I thought I'd just introduce with that. But today we're going to talk about a particular artist who I discovered about a week ago. I talked about it in the Telegram group, and I was saying, look at the state of this monster right here. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about artists that I've noticed and who seem to be utilizing old satanic, paganistic practices of ancestor spirit worship and basically putting it in a gallery and calling it performance art and not telling people where they actually got it from, basically. And I'm going to point out today, you know, what these people are actually doing, basically, and we'll have a bit of fun with it. And yes, as Alan Scott said, isn't this Olivier de Sagazan? I think that's how it's pronounced. Olivier de Sagazan, whatever. Yeah, we're going to talk about this guy. He's clearly a lunatic, atheistic, nihilistic weirdo, right? Who's channeling Nephilim demons and then calling it artwork, basically. Yeah, we're gonna go into it. So let me just quickly change top chat to live chat. I hope you've all done the same as well if you're in the chat today, because you can end up missing quite a lot if you don't do that, and I'm always guilty of making that mistake. So let me just change that over just to make sure I can see what everyone's saying. And I'm going to share my screen with you. So here we go. So this all started for me. I saw this come up in my feed randomly, called Transfiguration. And yeah, this is just disgusting. Okay. So I saw this Transfiguration, and I let it play because the thumbnail caught my attention, you know. And it starts with this guy just mumbling to himself, as you can see, with some strange numbers going all the way around him in this weird sigil square behind him. And he takes off his clothes, and then he starts, I'll speed it along, he starts slapping himself with clay. And you'll already know, you know, if you follow my research, instantly I recognize this for something quite dangerous, because what do we say that the Nephilim had? They had leprous, white, grey, dead vampiric skin. Okay? And if you do that to yourself, then what you're doing is mimicking a spiritual concept, what they look like in the spiritual world. So he does this to himself, as you can see, and he starts, you know, adding clown-like makeup on top of the clay, in a way, giving himself black, dead eyes and a mouth that looks like it's running with something liquid. Here he adds blood red to the lips, and he's just turned himself into a clown. A very basic clown, don't get me wrong, but this is the rule, and this is the rule I've been trying to explain for a long time. This is the secret if you want to make it in any art industry. You need to white up your skin, black up the eyes, and wear red lipstick. If you do that, you will be elevated. Okay, you will be put in the spotlight. You will be chosen by the masters of these industries, and all cameras will be put on you because you are channeling the Nephilim. You are presenting yourself in a way that mirrors in the spiritual world these demonic disembodied spirits. And if you're doing that, and then the people pointing the camera at you tell the world this person is famous, this person is successful, this person is avant-garde, this person is a genius, then what you're doing is creating an idol for other people who see the image on the other side of the camera to emulate. Oh, he's famous. His artwork is edgy and cool. Look, the cameras are on him. It must be good. I want to be famous too. So I will copy what he does. And therefore I will also clown myself up. It's just, that's all the process is for. That's why these people get applauded and renowned as so edgy, so cutting edge, you know. And let's watch this guy, you know, he goes on to disfigure his face with more clay. And I find it interesting because I was watching this happen, you know, I was watching him do this thing. And let me just speed it up a little bit. You know, and he does kind of just psychobabble throughout this and make random noises. Maybe speaking French, I don't know. Is there really much of a difference? But he goes on and on and on and on, just slapping himself with like straw and other random things as well. And we'll speed it up, you know. So he's here, and he starts to turn himself into something not quite human with the amount of clay on his face. But there's this scene here which is the most replayed, where he suddenly just slices his mouth open into a big, wide, weird-looking thing and makes a big, loud yelp, which I'm not going to play. But you saw it happen there. Let's quickly replay that. And slice, you know, and he becomes this wide-grinned, clown-looking, hybrid human-bird-beast thing. And then, you know, he adds all this strange red to him and he gives himself a big, wide, red jester grin while he's at it. And then as it goes on, you know, he loses the plot a bit more. He turns himself into a, well, I don't know what you'd call it, just some kind of twig-infested, deformed monster. Powders himself up and starts flailing his arms around. And you realise as you're watching this, if you listen to it, he's losing his mind a little bit. It's almost as though he's getting possessed. He starts acting erratic and slapping his body all over the place. And he starts, like, screaming and moaning, and it looks like he's gurning, like he's just taken, I don't know, like 3 grams of MDMA and he's absolutely off it. You know what I mean? He starts like grinding his wrists in weird directions and poking himself in the eye, and then he's like making groaning noises, and it looks like he's possessed, like he's not in control of his body. And then randomly, I think he just slaps himself to the wall at some point. I'm not sure when. Yeah, there you go. Look at him. And the thing is, I've seen that before. I've seen this type of movement and action before. You know, people send me basically like a lot of African possession videos on Telegram. I'm probably not allowed to show on YouTube, to be honest, but the people send me from India and South America and also all from all over the world, you know, where people are being possessed by demons, and during these rituals where they do very similar things. Okay, they clown themselves up, they poke their skin with sticks, they cover themselves in crazy paint or blood and things like that, and they start acting like he does here. They start doing this to themselves. They start like grinding, and they suddenly just bring their arms into the air like they have no control, and it's identical. All this guy is doing from this, just watching this one video, is he's doing what ancestor spirit worship cults do. He's clowning himself up, white skin, red lips, and he's channeling the spirits of the Nephilim and letting himself be possessed by them. He's becoming a channel for the spirits. But he just calls it art, puts it in a gallery, and I assume gets very famous and rich from this. And I find there's a pattern emerging here, which we'll get into in a little bit. But, you know, let's go into looking into who this guy is. So here's a picture of him doing the same thing again. You know, a lot more jesterish, a lot more clownish in this version. This is kind of his shtick. This is how he does it. You know, he always does this to himself. It's always a very similar, same colour palette. Red, white and black, which is the colours of Satanism, first of all. But it's also the colours of the typical face of a Nephilim creature and a clown. So, Olivier de Sagazan was born in 1959 in Brazzaville, Congo. He's a French artist, painter, sculptor, and performer. His most famous performance, Transfiguration, which you just watched, was created in 1998, with more than 300 performances of this in 25 countries. In Transfiguration, de Sagazan changes identity on stage from a man to an animal, and from animal to various hybrid creatures. He pierces, obliterates, and unravels the layers on his face in a frenzied search for new essence and form. In this regard, he has stated, I am flabbergasted in seeing to what degree people think it's normal, or even trite, to be alive. Transfiguration has been characterized as giving new meaning to the notion of life, offering a captivating, disturbing, and stirring glimpse into an alternative selfhood utterly unconstrained by inhibition. What? I'm sorry, but, I'm saying this as an authority, as somebody with a degree in fine art. This is word salad bullshit. Okay, I hate when people over dramatize and pontificate and say these stupid long word salady paragraphs to describe a guy slapping some clay in his face and screaming like an animal. It's not that deep. Okay, but these people have made a racket out of over adding too much importance and weight to acts that are otherwise trivial and stupid. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. A big part of a degree is learning how to sell your work, how to describe it in a way that's confusing enough to the layman, and as pretentious enough to bring in all the toffs and the cheese eaters and wine drinkers, And modern art really is just a circle jerk of people, slapping each other on the back and saying, great artwork, now come to my exhibition and say the same stuff about my artwork. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I just couldn't play that game. It really made me sick. It was the denigration of beauty standards through and through, and this is just another part of it. It's ugly artwork, and they basically make out that ugly is the new beautiful type of attitude. And I'm sorry, no, but ugly is just ugly. Beautiful is always beautiful. It's timeless in that respect. And this is just another addition to that, in my opinion on art. But I like it how here it kind of explains, that he changes his identity on stage from man to various hybrid creatures. What an odd way to describe it, and that is what he's doing. He's changing himself into a hybrid creature, a human mixed with a serpent-like seraphim angel, the Nephilim. And that's what he's channeling here. He's becoming these things, and frenzied search for new essence and form. It's a very fancy, posh way for being possessed. Just to say being possessed, you know what I mean? That's basically what a lot of this is. So clearly some fanboy wrote this tiny little Wikipedia passage. But let's just go to this website, his actual website. And here he is, way more Nephilimified than before. He's given himself those big, deadpan, piercing eyes, a whited up face with red clown lips. Again, he's just Nephilimified himself. He's channeling the same thing. So, it says here, he was the same quote we just read there. I'm flabbergasted to see to what degree people think it's normal to be alive. So deep. Woohoo, look at us, we're alive, as if people think this is normal. How crazy. It's not, again, it's not as deep as they always make it out to be. But he is only being applauded and presented and honoured because he is adding to the industry more of the same. A hidden form of Nephilim veneration. Here's another video of his where he's got someone joining in, and they too have also deformed themselves, dehumanized themselves, treating themselves as though they're simply just moldable clay that can embody any form. He's pretending to split people open there, as you can see. He's called it this performance hybridation, which is literally the story of the Nephilim, and the story of the genetic corruption of mankind in the book of Jasher. how mankind remolded themselves to be like the Nephilim. Is this not him showing an example of humanity remolding their own genetics to be more like the Nephilim, as though they were just moldable clay? It's said that mankind was made from the dust of the earth. Mankind is clay in a sense. And is that not some kind of biblical reference here? What he's doing, is that not a play on this? He relies heavily on the fact that he was a biologist originally. So I'm just going to look through more here. All his work pretty much goes along the same theme. He gives it different names, but it pretty much always looks the same. He called one the Dictator, where he acts like a dictator, but also slaps clay in his face while he's at it and starts giving himself a big wide grin. He's got one thing and he sticks to it, which I can understand. Been there myself. His paintings are very dehumanizing, very grotesque. Definitely inspired by a few similar artists who have done this before. There's this biology thing coming into play, but it's very much about how the flesh is useless and weak and pathetic and malleable, and we're all just whim to our own genetics, and there's nothing beautiful within life itself. It's a very ugly thing, an ugly process, and he finds comfort in the ugly. He's come to accept how brutal reality is, and that's where he finds his comfort. Some nonsense like that. There he is throwing himself around with more clay, doing the same thing. Many examples of this here. But he's just. We'll go into a minute where he got his inspiration from, and you'll realize this is quite literally just a simulacrum, shall we say, or a bastardized version of ancestor spirit worship practices in Africa, where he's originally from. I think he's from the Congo. Is the Congo in Africa? I think it is. Or is it in Brazil? No, I could be getting that wrong. No, but I think it's in Africa. But he says he does a visit to Cameroon, which reminds him of his. The Congo is Africa because this is where he's from. And he says he went to Cameroon, and it reminded him of his roots. He's from Africa, so he started making artwork, which reminded him of these practices that were surrounding him. So he's basically a Frenchman born and raised in Africa, who decided to bring African ancestor spirit worship rituals over to the West and then profit off it. That's basically what he did. And this, like I said, this is a common practice. Here's a quick interview with him. Another version of the transfiguration, the one we just saw, just doing it to himself again. Look at the state. Look at the mess he gets in. And he's like screaming and talking in tongues or something and gibbering and jabbering to himself while he keeps mutilating his human form and mirroring more of the spirits, This guy is a man possessed by this point. And again, this practice is the exact same as ancestor spirit worship found all over the world. So this guy gets political, makes it all about Ukraine. He really focuses on that a lot in this, I think, because he did a show called Dictator at one point. But basically, he's saying, when someone gets like that, they basically become a carcinogenic cell and a tumor all over the earth. And he relates everything back to a biological standpoint. So yeah, Francis Bacon and Belsinki were artists that inspired him. And you can see from the work here that these artists clearly did inspire a lot of what he does. But, here he is going back to Africa to put on the show you saw, Transfiguration, to the African people who do actually have their own version of this and do this themselves and to venerate their own ancestors. And it's not surprising that he's in this setting and they're all like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? Yeah, look at this guy. What this guy's doing is great. I like his version of it. That's how they see it. I thought it's funny here. It's like, who and what shaped you as an artist? Life. Oh, so deep. That's so deep. Great. Yeah. I don't know. It just made me laugh seeing that. How pretentious. So clay for me is a possibility of extension of my domain of expression, a material very close to my skin and flesh, with the added aspect of connection with the cosmos, because you and I are earth and light. So he does preach a bit of a new agey worldview, kind of. Like I said, he comes from this whole biological standpoint, but he does have this whole finding beauty in the grotesque in our flesh meat puppets attitude. You know? So my studies in biology and philosophy helped me greatly get out of this hallucination. You know, it feels like you said that you were very religious until about the age of 20, and then you weren't. Was there some event that triggered it, or did it happen gradually? Biology taught me that there is no God, basically. It's his attitude. So he makes these really grotesque things because of that. I don't know. It's all very edgelord stuff when you start reading, when you listen to this guy talk. I mean, look at the state of that. Another interview with him here, I thought it was interesting. One of his sculptures, he created this thing. Now, if that doesn't look like an elongated, skulled Nephilim creature with human/reptilian amphibious hybrid bird mixed together, I don't know what is. This guy is definitely channeling the Nephilim. I mean, he's created an elongated skull creature right here. You know, it says it all. So I think he knows something, or if he doesn't, you know, then he's being used. I would say that much. So, yeah, I really don't want to read half of this stuff, to be honest. I'll leave the links down below into the description at the end of this video. But one thing that is saying here, it says, in the performance Transfiguration, we can see several influences. Tribal art, shamanism, as if you were searching for an original form of communication. What do you think? Communication with what? So he says, yes, I'm very influenced by tribal art, by the relationship between earth and the elements. In that way, they both go beyond language and what they are, both sort of bodily creation. In Transfiguration, a performance based on a skull, which was modelled over in earth and mud. There was the idea of giving back speech to the hands by covering the face. This work, which I did without my vision, links to numerous initiation rituals in which the shaman puts someone in a trance. When they become a almost blind and unconscious entity, a medium through which the living and spirit world can communicate. So he's just admitting there, yes, I'm copying what the shamans do, in which they make somebody blind and then put them in a place or a state in which a spirit can possess them to communicate with through them. So he's saying, I am channeling spirits. He's not even lying about it. And surprise, surprise, he leans towards the big, wide grin smiling clown while doing it. Because that's precisely what the spirits on the other side look like. He's not even hiding it. It's quite clear. So yeah, more of the same. And I don't look at this and think, oh, so inspiring. I look at that and go, yeah, more of the same nonsense that we see everywhere else, just packaged in a pretentious little box with a bow, and given to those suckers who will eat it up, you know, in these art circles and schools who are just looking for another pretentious fool to join their ranks so they can continue make their circle jerk even bigger. That's basically all it is, you know. And they'll always welcome grotesque people like this who commune with spirits into their ranks. They always will. And just to top it all off, at the end he says here, are you working on any new projects? Oh, I really threw myself into Transfiguration, dressing as a woman, a pregnant woman giving birth, opening her stomach and becoming both surgeon and patient. I had to choreograph all of that. Oh, poor you. I bet you had your work cut out for you there. You know, apart from that, in a week I'm going to Los Angeles to take part in a film, both as artist and actor. It's the story of a dead person who wants to be alive again. Pause. Right, so that's the story of the Nephilim. They are disembodied spirits. Dead people, to use that term very loosely. You know, dead half-human, half-angel hybrids who want a body again. They want to be alive again. So let's continue. It's the story of a dead person who wants to be alive again, but so they can take human form and eat other people. So there you go. The cannibalistic Nephilim giants that used to eat us, who are now dead behind the veil on the other side, who want a body once more. This guy is going to be involved in a film about that. At the beginning of the film, I'm a being, a sort of monster. But then, Through taking other people's lives, I return to a human form. It's a bit like Transfiguration, but in reverse. But I won't tell you anymore. It's like, so this guy is literally being involved in a film about a dead person who wants to be alive so they can eat people. And he is a monster that becomes more and more human the more people are murdered and killed by it and sacrificed to it. So it's all satanic, nonsensical, spirit veneration nonsense, hidden behind the veil of edgy performance art about trying to connect humanity with oneself, to question what it means to be a human in some pretentious way. I'm sick of it. I honestly am sick of this nonsense. It's the art world is a travesty, and I'm upset that I dedicated 3 years of my life to get a degree in that thing, thinking that talent would simply get you where you needed to be. It has nothing to do with that if you want to be a part of this corrupt system. It's who you know, and it's basically who you choose to channel. It's the spirits you choose to venerate that get you anywhere in this industry. Come out of her, my people. That's all I will say. So yeah, this reminded me of this whole African ancestor spirit worship stuff, you know. If you go to Cameroon, where he visited, this is their versions of the ancestor spirit worship garb that they would wear. Here they are clanning themselves up a lot like he would, with the white face and the red eyes or the red lips. And they're also known for wearing these type of things as well, this particular costume. So it's the Bamilek people, a particular tribe of Cameroon, one of 90 tribes to find the Bamilek people. They do like to dress like this. And if you look at this design for this particular type of clothing, there's more of it here. So this is Africa. This is West Africa, to be precise, on the bend of Africa. Africa's a huge country. We're talking thousands of miles of span here. And this is what they wear in that particular region he went to visit, where he put on his performance when they do their ancestor spirit veneration rituals. And you see these masks worn everywhere to represent the spirits on the other side, their ancestor spirits, the demons, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. And these are very DMT Jester-like, aren't they? You know, this is the effect you're getting here. Psychedelic fractal pattern monsters. With big bulging eyes and clown-like motifs. But the thing is, you look at this one, and I've seen this before in my own research in Sri Lanka, maybe 2,000, 3,000 miles away from this particular people's, and they have their version of the masks they wear when venerating their demons, called the Raksas. And this motif is very common in a lot of the masks they produce. This circular motif, can you see? Right next to the head. I do believe the creatures would have had something like this going on. Maybe it was energy manifesting next to them, I don't know. But I found it curious that the Bamilek tribes, when doing their veneration and channeling demons, or the ancestor spirits as they call them, also choose to wear a garb that looks extremely similar. It's their own culturally specific stylistic way of doing it, yes, but what they're channeling is clearly the same thing, just with different artistic styles of doing that. This one looks very clown-like, doesn't it? You know, but there's something about these discs next to the head, and I'm sure they probably come up with some nonsensical symbolic reason for why they have these discs. I don't know, they represent the life force or something, or the sun, or I don't bloody know what they come up with. They make something up, no doubt. But I think these must have been some kind of literal feature of these creatures. You know, and again, this is just the Sri Lankan, East Indian way of doing it. And this is the West African way of doing it. You know, but they're representing a similar creature, the same thing. Maybe they actually had ears that looked like this, for all I know, you know. But it's oddly specific, isn't it? And it's shared across culturally, because they're all channeling the same creatures. You know, here they are again, showing other psychedelic fractal monster things as well. It's in their artwork, it's in their clothes. Their entire culture manifests these patterns and these forms because they believe these creatures are the progenitors and creators of their civilizations and culture. So it's deeply embedded into everything, including the clothes they choose to wear. And this is the inspiration for people like this. You know, this is where he gets it from. He basically copies cultures that do this type of stuff and brings it to the West and profits off of it, trying to pass it off as something new and edgy and avant-garde that's never been done before, but it's not. It's an ancient practice, practice like by these people, for example. I mean, he's not the only artist to do this, and this is the point I want to get across. So Nick Cave is another artist I brought up before. Nick Cave makes sound suits, okay? And he's a Brooklyn-based artist, I think. Yeah, I think he's based in Brooklyn. And he basically makes it all about, racism against black people. He's politicized the whole thing. And he's saying he creates these suits to basically dehumanize the image. So when you look at it, you can't look at the person wearing the suit with any prejudice. You have to re-examine the whole thing. And he makes these things called sound suits, because when you move around in them, they can make a noise, basically. It says here, costumes that completely cover the individual's body. They camouflage the wearer's shape, enveloping and creating a second skin that hides gender, race, and class, thus compelling the audience to watch without judgment. Is that what they do? Is that it? Is that the reason you do this? The artist usually makes sound suits from blah, 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 dyed human hair, beads, plastic buttons, wires, feather sequins. He uses these everyday objects to construct an atmosphere of familiarity with the rearrangement of the items into understandable representations of both material and social culture. This is that word salad artistry coming in I mentioned earlier. This is what they're all trained to do. Talk bollocks about something very simple. The pillars of his work are mostly race, gender, and identity. So again, this person is profiting on the idea of, he's channeling the demons, he's creating ancestor spirit worship garbs that reflect creatures in the fractal matrix in order to channel them, but he's hidden it under the guise of, it's all about racism, man. It's all about exposing racism and trying to show that we're all just human. But, he says, I'm inspired by, African art and culture and things like that. I mean, this sound suit here, this is his first ever sound suit. This thing. Okay, and you look at it and you think, oh, how unique, how avant-garde, how crazy. It says, I was inside a suit. You couldn't tell if I was a woman or a man. If I was black, red, green, or orange, from Haiti or South Africa. I was no longer Nick. I was a shaman of sorts. Well, yeah, you're damn right you were a shaman of sorts, because you just straight up stole this entire design from the cookery traditions of Bulgaria. Right here. They've been wearing these suits for thousands of years. Since the age of the Thracians in that Mediterranean region, who were doing Dionysian worship, veneration rituals, extreme parties of extreme excess, wearing these wild man beast costumes before then doing a period of fasting. You just straight up stole their design and brought it to America and claimed it as your own in a sound suit. You called it a sound suit, But you've done nothing unique and special. You're a thief. That's all you are. You have taken the practice of channeling the Nephilim from these pagan cultures in Europe, the wild man as they call it, and you've profited off of it. Like a charlatan. Like a true charlatan. That's what you are. And you don't mention that anywhere here. You don't mention where you got the inspiration for this first sound suit from that made a breakthrough in 1992. You were banking on the idea that, well, this is before the internet, so you were banking on the idea that no one would ever figure it out, and who the hell's going to know about this really obscure ritual of venerating demons in Bulgaria. But now we know, and now it's obvious. And it shows that you're just basically a plagiarizing thief who channels demons. You copied this right here. And you made yours out of twigs instead and called it unique and avant-garde. So you're not fooling me, Nick Cave. I know what you're doing. It's pretty obvious. And again, just because you've put it into a gallery doesn't suddenly mean you're not doing the same thing these other cultures are doing. Even this right here, this is what they do in these Eastern European countries, and you're calling it a piece of performance art when you're doing the exact same thing these cultures do when they channel the spirits of the Nephilim, or as they call it in Europe, the wild man. Everyone has their own name, Everywhere has their own stylistic way of doing it. Some people believe they're doing it to scare away spirits. Some cultures believe they're doing it to attract the spirits. They all have their own versions of this. It's spread all throughout Europe, in fact, but it's all the same thing. And this is in Africa, they did the same thing as well. Here's somebody here with an animal head covered in fur and bells. You look at this one here as well, this animal beast head here covered with a strange cloth dress. It's not far removed from what you're doing with this one here. And these patterns with the pom-poms and these stylistic designs on the nose here of this beast animal. That's very similar again to these Eastern European patterns of designs worn on their masks on their face, like this one, for example. It's not too far removed, is it? With the pom-poms and the bells as well, and the particular stylistic choice. You're just a thief. And you were banking on people's ignorance to get you by. Maybe hiding behind the race card has got you this far. Who knows? But that's where it comes from, And again, that's just one inspiration, the European aspect. This is also extremely similar to the Zangbo culture of Haiti and Voodoo. The Voodoo, as it says in the background there, you can see it. And they believe in this culture, the cults that do this are in charge of the law and keeping everybody in line in these spirit veneration, ancestor spirit worshipping, demon channeling cults. What they're claiming is happening right here is this thing is being moved by a spirit. There's not a man under there. And during the process of doing this, they show that there's no one under there. They open it up repeatedly to show it's empty and still spinning, And this is their way of doing it. They use these things as tools for the spirit to inhabit and show itself to be. These cultures in the background, even the police here and the army involved, and here they are venerating the demon being in their presence, basically, this ancestor spirits being in their very presence right now. That's what this is. That's what they're excited about here. They believe it's in their presence. The spirits have come. The spirits are manifesting in this thing we've created for them. This horned, wild, hairy beast creature. As you can see, it's got horns at the top. And they take it very seriously. In fact, a lot of these people you see standing in the background, including the military here, are terrified of this because they're like, there's a spirit in there, And people like us in the West will say, no, there's a man in there, it's not really a spirit. But a lot of the videos I see that were sent to me on my Telegram group, for example, it shows them opening it up. It's empty. It's actually nothing in there. But they don't show you that on the Wikipedia page because they need to have the Western plausible deniability that kind of stuff isn't really possible. But these are the things they create in order for the spirits to possess. You can see it here. And this is what they do in Bulgaria. They have their own version of it. But they believe I'm dressing like this thing to scare it away. But while they're dressed like this, they act like demons and run around terrorizing people. So are they really scaring it away, or are they channeling the spirit of the demon, the wild man, as they call it? So when you get artists like Nick Cave doing their own version of the exact same thing, but just made it a bit more colourful and put it in a gallery setting instead, and calling it performance art, don't be fooled. They're just copying the pagan practices that they've been inspired by and claiming it to be their own unique creation. But the results are the same. They're bringing the demons to the gallery. They're channeling them. That's the point of these things. That's what these outfits are used for. There's no other purpose behind them. You can't just call it art and suddenly it doesn't do what it's meant to do, So yeah, these soundsuits get wild. Because don't forget, these creatures are disembodied spirits made of form and light and pattern now. They look pretty psychedelic and trippy and weird. And that's, again, what he's trying to mirror. The more you can mirror it, the stronger the channel, basically. And look at the state of these things. Yeah. This is exactly what the Zangbo looks like when it's in full swing. This thing, That's exactly what these things look like when they're actually going at it. He's just copied it. He's done nothing. He's done nothing unique or special. So there you go. More artists channeling the Nephilim, especially this guy. What an absolute tool. and they look like clowns. Surprise, surprise. So there you go, guys. I did a little presentation for you there. I'll pop back onto the chat, see what people are saying. But that's all I've got to share today, okay? On that front. But I'm also going to do a bit of a book reading for you guys in a minute, okay? So let me just switch the screen back here so you can see me. There we go. As you can hear, my throat's a bit dry. So I'm going to drink more of this god-awful green tea. I'm doing this for my health. You know what? You can almost get past the taste of grass. Almost. Right, let's keep going. Oh, someone's left a super chat of $20. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Let me just see if there's actually a message behind that. There isn't a message. No, I appreciate the donations. That's wonderful, guys. I've come right to the top of the chat, and it's my wife telling you all that I do not have celiac. I've been tested. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything like that. There's nothing else to be tested for. We know what I've got. I have a genetic DNA corruption that can't be changed. That's basically it. Let me just catch up with the chat, see what's going on. Hi, Wendy. Thanks for being here. Humble stranger. Great to see you. Talking about gluten. Watch out for soy. I think I'm... Yeah, so it looks like not much has been said. You know what that means? That means you're all listening, and I'm happy about that. So it gives me a chance to get through the chat quickly. Why is it happening to you now, Paul? Why were you okay in your younger years? Maybe I don't think I was. I don't think I've ever been okay. But at the same time, we've got some history going back from my blood tests in the past, and you can see 6 years ago, my iron started to go up with each blood test, and it's got to the point now where it's so high, I'm getting real horrible detrimental effects from it. But it's very possible, I've had this before. I used to suffer extreme migraines as a kid. It could have all been linked, but it's also, research I've done is this genetic marker can activate randomly. The truth is, I'm actually very unlucky, because not only do both parents have to have the genetic marker first and then come together to create a child who may get hemochromatosis, so that's me. Even then, there's only a 1 in 4 chance I will actually get the problem. Okay, and I'm that 1 in 4, and it can just activate one day, just like cancer does. It just one day cells just turn cancerous. And there's nothing you can do about that. Well, obviously you can fight cancer and get it out of your body, and you can survive that, but you can't change this. I'm already genetically predisposed to have this issue, and once it's activated, there's no deactivating it. And that's just the way it is. So that's why maybe it hasn't only activated 6 years ago, for all I know, or it's always been a problem, and I've just relatively kept my iron levels quite low. But this is the thing. The irony is, I loved eating meat. I'm one of those guys who really does love a good steak. That's what I had for my 30th birthday. A good fillet steak. And all this time, it might have been killing me. So it's gonna be a hard adjustment. I'm not gonna lie. Paul, I knew everyone would give you well-meaning advice. That doesn't help. I experience it often. But people mean well and want to help. I'm glad the milk thistle works. Yeah, the milk thistle seems to be helping. When I first took it, it gave me stomach cramps and nausea. But I think that was it working. Because chelators like milk thistle are literally running through my blood and clawing the iron with it. And eventually it comes through the kidneys and you pass it through the urine. That's how it works. I don't want to give too much information, but I can definitely tell it's working. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it was rough. It's rough, but I do feel a little bit better today. But it's definitely no substitute for just straight out ripping it out of my blood through a phlebotomy, as it's called, and that's what I need. Um, yeah, at least my liver will be somewhat protected with the milk thistle. Yeah. Um, Stephanie, wish you the best. Hope you feel better soon. Thanks, Stephanie. So let's keep going down here. Dale Stevens says, your gorillas video was good. I've been following this theory since you introduced it. It makes a lot of sense. Genghis Khan and Vlad Dracula were both vampires who also ate raw flesh. Interesting. This is really creepy. How ugly and creepy. So I think we're talking about Olivier, whatever his name is now, yeah. Man, weird stuff. Definitely creepy. Now, this is some modern art I can get behind. They were also both redheads. Hi there, love the content. Do you think there is any value in ancient religions, or is everything non-Christian Nephilim? For example, Zeus and Prometheus play the roles of God, and Lucifer in the Bible. I think certain cultures may have interpreted God's actions in a pantheistic way. There's definitely room for that pagan interpretation of God's actions, and then the personification of God into characters like Zeus. Sure, you could make that argument, but I really do feel like the differences are far more vast than the similarities when you actually look into them. And to go that way is a bit of a sympathy for the devil situation. I also do believe there were many different versions of these pagan gods throughout different times, maybe pre and post flood as well. Gary Wayne had a name for them. I think it was the parent gods and the offspring gods, or something like that. The parent gods are the ones that came before the offspring gods took over. I think Zeus, for example, was of the gods of Mount Olympus who fought against the old gods, his father time, Kronos. Do you get what I mean? I think a lot of these are basically, seems like, allegorical, bastardized, twisted versions of the God story, and then packaged and sold down to the people these angels ruled over to justify their existence. So I think a lot of these fallen angels played the character of God, of the one true God over all the other gods, you know. But the problem is as well with these pagan cultures, although Zeus was the head god above all the other gods were still considered worthy of veneration and worship. They weren't necessarily that much less than the head god. That's not Christianity. That's not it. There is one God above all gods, and there are nothing else that can compare. There's only one creator of everything. Do you get what I mean? And I think a lot of these Mediterranean stories, the mythos of Mediterranean, is to give you this idea that human beings are nothing but the playthings of the gods, and all gods need your veneration and worship, or you will suffer the wrath. You know, and Zeus certainly isn't going to save you from the wrath of Aphrodite, let's say. Do you know what I mean? Or you know, or whatever God, choose your God. You know, it doesn't matter. But that's not the Christian angle, and I think a lot of these stories are convoluted and complicated. I mean, you know, you say like Zeus is a similar story between God and Lucifer and stuff like that, but you know, this you talk about Odin as well and things like this. You know, they're all very similar gods, thunder gods primarily, aren't they? The head god is always a thunder god, or the thunder gods. You know, Lucifer fell from heaven like lightning. You know, Zeus is probably Lucifer. Odin probably is Lucifer. You know what I mean? Then he's pretending to be God, the head god, the big god over all the other gods. He's putting himself in the position of I am. You know, of the throne of God above everything, but that's not what he really is. So you just, you know, I think a lot of these lies were just made during this time and then sold to an ignorant people who bowed down to these powerful beings in front of them and didn't question the narrative and made mythos and allegories and stories about them. But it's all lies. It literally was just based on lies, you know. And I think a lot of these people need to who especially like no, especially these neo-pagans, shall we say, who I think are quite cringy. You know, I think they need to step back for a minute and consider like, could it be possible they just made it up? Could it be possible my gods are just liars? Could it be possible? You know, and it could, you know, it could be. And there's the Christianity and the biblical narrative stands alone against all of these, because it does outright say why all these other cultures exist is they are literally a creation of fallen angels who rebelled against God and became pantheons. You know, it's explaining the history of why they even exist. Other religions don't bother; they just pretend others don't exist. Do you get what I mean? And their worldview is the only worldview for that geographical location. And they may come up with a world creation mythos, which is very usually abstract and strange, you know, but they never address all the other cultures. And the Bible does have explanations for all of that, you know. So I understand as a tautology, pagan and pantheistic traditions may not like what the Bible says, or people like I am saying, but yes, fundamentally, they are all fallen angel veneration and offspring of fallen angel veneration as well. That's basically what it all comes down to, you know. There aren't multiple truths. There can only be one truth. Do you understand? There might be different stylistic ways that cultures have presented that truth, sure. But there is one narrative fundamentally that we need to all figure out. Because it's our history at the end of the day. It's all of mankind's history. So I guess that's very quickly how I can kind of answer that question. I'm sorry if that's not very satisfactory. I know you might have wanted me to put more weight into those cultures. But I certainly understand your point. But yeah, I don't think, in terms of value in those stories, they do serve a purpose of justifying the biblical narrative that there was a corruption and a deception happening in the ancient past through fallen angel watcher gods. So they are useful to prove that point, yes. So anyway, back to the point. Yeah, demons for sure, says 5022 Freedom. Yeah. Peter Jourdain, wow. A cross, interesting, says Jeffrey Rucker. I'm guessing when he painted a cross on his face at the end. Yeah, of course he did. I imagine it's hard to breathe at times, adding to the delirium. Yeah, definitely. Simon Cowell would like him. I know, right? He certainly would. What else we've got? I'm not the only ginger here. You have some issues. I'm guessing someone was around which has been kicked from the group. Feel free to do that, guys, if anyone's causing any issues for you guys. Let me just check the group chat here on the YouTube. Yes, it looks like someone's been kicked from the group. Okay, fair enough. That's what I've got mods for. That's what you're all there for. Thanks for helping out with that. But that chat seems to be getting away from me quite quick. I've got a lot to get through, and then I'm going to do a bit of a book reading, guys, once I've caught up with you quickly here. But I'm surprised I've been going for an hour already, you know. That was a quick hour. I thought it was a much shorter time than that. Wait, he's born in Africa? Yeah, he's a French man born in Africa. He's French avant-garde, no? That's right. Sounds like metaphor for life stages and changes between attitudes, something like that. A metaphor for many things. See, I don't hold much weight into modern art and the metaphorical symbolism. I think a lot of it is just made up nonsense to justify the incredibly basic, simplified creations, because they don't actually have any real talent to do anything of real value or beauty. So they rely on the words to create a cover story for why they lack the ability to create anything beautiful or of a high standard. Perversion, maybe, as Jeffrey Rucker calls it, not art. Yeah. Did he grow up in the Congo and encounter the ancestor spirit culture there? Yes, that's basically it. He just stole it, brought it to the West, put it in a gallery setting, and called it his own. That's basically all he did. Ugly and tasteless, absolutely. Music composition can be like that. Absolutely, yeah. There's some terrible music out there as well. That thing went viral in the past, yeah. So Wendy there mentioned something about blanking, which I can't talk about. I don't know. Kirit spucking, we'll call it, by that witch of an artist called Marina. And you can't really talk about it without getting banned, but she is one of the worst performance artists, just utterly satanic performance artists out there, who is lauded as the greatest performance artist to ever exist, and she's the whole reason we even have performance art. She was the first to do it, you know. And if you go into the history of the stuff she's done in the past and what she's doing today, she's just an outright witch, like through and through. A satanic, pentagram, blood drinking, disgusting bodily fluid using witch, ritual orchestrating in an art setting witch. Through and through. Not even denying it. Wears a red garb, pales her face up with red lipstick. Just literally looks like a stereotypical what you think a witch would look like today. That's who she is, you know, and she's considered the greatest of the great. But I'm not really allowed to talk about her. So we'll move on from that. I'm sure you probably can all figure out who I'm talking about in the chat. I'm just quickly skipping through now so I can catch up, guys. Cause obviously, I'm on a bit of a time crunch. Drunk Wedding Photographer, thanks for being here. I see you've just popped into the chat as well. Is Venom not a demon as the symbiote possesses Peter Parker and uses his body while he is asleep? Says Lil Kasha. Yes, I've made a whole video about that. Episode 36 of my Nephilim Look Like Clowns series is specifically about Venom and where it comes from and how it is a Nephilim symbol. So go check that out if you haven't already. Episode 36. This person is sick. Sorry, just trying to quickly catch up. It has absolutely nothing to do with talent. As long as you are worshipping the devil, demons in some shape or form, you will do well, says DVNZXL. Yes, it's exactly it. That's the secret. That's literally that's all you have to do. Sell your soul, essentially. You know, that's what it comes down to. Venerate the devil and demons, and you will be put in positions of fame. It's pretty straightforward. That's the real secret. It's not about how talented you are. Who gave you that idea? You know? What else have we got? Quickly trying to catch up to the chat now. I think okay, I'm at the bottom. I'm just going to read what's visible to me. I'm sorry if I've missed anyone's comments. Again, this chat does get a bit long these days, so I have to be quite selective with what I'm doing. It's nothing personal. The only way you can guarantee I'll see your comments is if you do a $1 super chat or something. It highlights literally specifically there. That's the easiest way of doing it. I think you can @ me as well, but that doesn't always highlight. Depends on what section I'm on. If I'm on YouTube's chat, which I don't use, so I'm on OBS, it will highlight, but if you do on OBS, it won't highlight for me, so it's hit and miss with that one. We're talking about Star Wars. Jim Molly, hi there, love the content. Do you think there is any value in ancient religions? Well, I've just answered that question, Jim Molly, so go back if you haven't heard it already. So I'm not going to answer that one again. Yeah, that's the one. Brenda Collins, you know who I'm talking about. Right, so yeah, I'm gonna James Carter. Thanks for being here, James. I appreciate it. Just saying hi, Paul. Excellent. She's an ambassador for child immigration in Ukraine now. I know, right? Tell me about it. What a absolute mess of a world we live in. Right, yeah, so I'm going to do a bit of a book reading for you guys. Nothing long or major. I'll just share the screen with you, just give you an update of where I'm up to with the book, so you've got an idea. But if I just screen share, there you go. Yeah, so that's highlighted for me on that chat, but I don't have this visible to me at all times, as you can see here. Do you think we're in the short season? I think so. I'm inclined to believe so. Yes, I think probably yes. That does seem to offend a great number of people, and it's funny actually you mentioned that, because if I go off this, one now, and I just show you, yeah. So this video of mine here, where I'm talking about the possibilities, that we are in that millennial kingdom time, and what the ideas are already about around it are, and who are we then if that is the case? What's going on? I made a video about this concept. It's a good 40 minutes as well. I can go on for a long time talking about all of this, and this video has popped off. I've suddenly just got like 20,000 views over the past 2 days. People are really looking at this video now like mad, and it's brought with it hundreds of comments of people being extremely upset. Like some people are okay with it. I'd say it's about a 70-30 split. And I'd say about 30% of the comments I get are people furious that I've even suggested that Jesus Christ has already come. And really getting angry with me about it. But like I said, the majority are okay. The majority are quite open to the idea, or more like, the more I think about it, the more I'm realizing this is probably the case. But most people are fuming. Well, not most, a good chunk of people are absolutely raging at me that I have dared to suggest that perhaps it's already happened. Like this guy, for example, he started going crazy at me, and he hadn't even like understood my point. He thinks I'm saying we're currently living in the 1,000-year reign. It's like, I never said we're living in the 1,000-year reign. Like, that wasn't me. I'm saying it's over, And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Then he goes on saying loads of people are coming with this stupid stuff right now about, time being changed and how Jesus has already come. I'll finish watching it and then edit my comment. He finished watching it and then said, never mind, you're just an uneducated, babbling stoner. I got the joke now. Sorry to be a bother. And I was like, mate, you haven't got a clue what's going on. Shut up. And I don't know. Some people out there really just cannot bear to imagine that Christ isn't going to come and reign for 1,000 years with them. And I've argued this before, in the video. I don't hang my entire faith on the hope that I get to reign for 1,000 years with Christ. That's not where I've banked my faith, but a lot of people have. A lot of people really are banking on that, like through and through. That is it, It's kind of sad to me. Yeah, I never really thought about it like that. I found my faith by being saved by Christ, and what he can do for us in spiritual war and things like that, and then as you naturally do when you're a young Christian, you go off and research and try and find more stuff, and you realize there's a huge contingency of people out there who are constantly talking about when Christ will return and when the rapture is going to happen and when the end times revelation is going to kick in and the mark of the beast and all that sort of stuff, and I realized that was never my go-to point. That wasn't my trigger point for finding my faith, but I think that was for a lot of other people. I realized that's how they got their faith, by listening to the people telling them that Jesus is about to come back and you get to rule with him for 1,000 years, and I just couldn't. I don't know. It was never my context, my grounding, you know. So it was. I never expected such a kickback, which is stupid and naive of me. You know what I mean? That's that's the truth, you know. Ben Foil Hat, thanks for the donation. I very much enjoy your content in these topics. Thanks, I appreciate that. I'm kind of agnostic about the millennial stuff. God is in control, though. Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm not 100% certain on anything with that. I'm shocked that we're not allowed to, as Christians, to even speculate on what the word says. You know what I mean? We're not actually allowed. Like it's the inability for a lot of Christians to even humor ideas that gets to me. And that's what I love to do. I love to humor different ideas, you know, and it's kind of like you get these Christians saying, you're not allowed to think like that. It's like, who the hell are you to tell me how I am and I'm not allowed to think? You know, you're not God. So it's just things like that. I know they get to me. Anyway, let's go on to the book reading. This is the book so far. I'm halfway through writing chapter 15. And it's a bit of a historically heavy one. I'm 120. It says 122 pages here, but when this translates to a smaller book, we're probably talking more about 170, 180 or something like that. Because obviously the fonts are a different size here than what will actually be printed, I imagine. And the references are getting quite high now. What am I on? I don't know. Let's go down here. Find my last reference on here. I'm on like 284 so far. But yeah, right now I'm currently in the midst of talking about Freemasons and the circus ritual, and how circuses were created, and how Freemasonry is weaved throughout the entire process. It's getting silly. As you can see, I've not even finished with this one subheading at all. I've still got another maybe like 4 pages to go just for this particular subheading. But I am up to here right now, and I'm talking about Barnum, P.T. Barnum, the greatest showman, as you've probably been educated by films about this guy. But you know, he wasn't what that film made him out to be. Let's put it that way. But yeah, and also how he was actually a member of the Oddfellows. And they housed people such as Ulysses S. Grant, Charlie Chaplin, Winston Churchill, King George IV, Albert Pike, musicians, actors, lawmen, and presidents and senators throughout the centuries. The Order of the Oddfellows was a prolific secret society in which P.T. Barnum was also a member. And he's the guy who obviously revolutionized the circus industry and brought the freak show along and attached it into it, you know. So that's where I'm up to currently, and I've got a lot to say about P.T. Barnum, and then I'm going to go into the Ringling Brothers, and then I'm going to go into the huge, greatest show ever combined circus of 10 circuses coming together, all owned by Freemasons, to create a huge spectacular called King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, all done by Masonic supply houses who made the backdrops for the Masonic scenery, and it's just going to go into how it's all just about Freemasons. And then once that one's boxed off, and I give a brief history of modern circuses and how that kind of tapered off, we're going to go into shrining and the clowns of the mystic shrine. And we're going to talk about Shriners circuses today, and how most circuses are actually orchestrated through Shriners. And then we're going to go on to the Royal Order of the Jesters, and that one is a very difficult one to talk about, because the information on them is scarce, but if we can only glean little bits, and I'm going to show those little bits in that little section. And then I can finally get on to chapter 16 after that, and we'll talk about how a clown represents a Nephilim, what the caricature truly is, you know. White skin was a white skin descriptor, red nose, literal feature of a rhinophyma, wide red mouth, wide jaws like that of a serpent with blood around it, or possibly big red lips like that of a human. Wild red hair, common descriptor of the Nephilim, large shoes representative of being a giant or a large body. All that's going to get broken down in there. The neck ruffle being a reptilian frill, high brow ridge makeup being elongated skulls, Colourful pattern clothing, representative of reptilian pattern skin and also their fractaled nature. Crosses on the eyes means they're dead or disembodied, or serpent eyes with the slit. Horns being sound frequency and disembodied, the honk honk horn. Crosses on the eyes. Yeah, it's all there. I'm going to break all that down in the next chapter. That might be a relatively quick chapter to write because I've kind of said it so many times. But we're getting there. I'm about halfway through the book. But once section 2 is boxed off, which is all about this history of the clown, and it's a lot of history there, and biblical stuff. And then we can finally get down to chapter 3, which is basically going through all the cultures around the world and showing their versions of venerations and things like that. I've got a rough map already laid out for each section, but that one should be relatively easy to do as well, because again, I've talked about it to death, and I have plenty of videos talking about all these particular groups as well. So we're flying through, but yeah, I'm in a very historically referenced heavy section right now. So looking through this, I'm just wondering which section I should probably read to you guys. I just did one on Charles Dibden, kind of summarising who he was and the things he got involved with. It's quite a short one. Maybe I should just read this little section to you about Charles Dibden, just to give you a glimpse of the details I've had to go into to explain how Freemasonry first got its hooks into the circus in general, and how he's actually a part of all of this. Because the thing is, I talk about Dibden here, but then I quickly bring him up again later on in the next subheading, because it turns out he was involved with creating the word circus and linking it to these things, what was going on in the 1800s. Prior to that, the circus was obviously a word used to describe other things, other performances, but never this particular performance. I'll read this very short chapter here about Charles Dibden, just so you can get a rounded off idea. But this is a long one. Give me a minute. So Grimaldi. Then we get to chapter 15, Secret Society and Circus. Charles Dibden and the Harlequin Freemason. Yeah, so this is called Charles Dibden and the Harlequin Freemason. So it's to show that the father of the man who created the very first clown costume, which Joseph Grimaldi wore, he was a prolific, famous Freemason of the day. So I'm just going to have a quick drink and then I'll read this section to you here. So, to round off the influence of the 18th century theatre discussed in chapter 14, and to introduce the strange connection secret societies seem to have with the history of clowning, I think it is right to give a brief overview of Charles Dibden, the Elder. This man was considered the most prolific and influential musician of his time, having created many songs sung by British sailors of the East India Company and those involved in the Napoleonic War. It was his music that was said to help maintain the morale of the mariners, and therefore instrumental in making sure Britain maintained their victories at sea. Though an obscure figure of history now, he was a man of great fame in his time, and his accomplishments in the creative industries were certainly no small thing. Both his illegitimate sons, Charles and Thomas, quickly adopted the Dibden name in adulthood, and both pursued careers in the same industries as their father, writing hundreds of plays and songs and musicals for the stage. Thomas wrote perhaps the most famous pantomime, in which immortalised Grimaldi as the father of all clowns, called Mother Goose. Charles Jr. was the stage manager who gave Grimaldi his first leading roles in a show he created called Peter Wilkins, the same show the first psychedelic clown costume was implemented. Indeed, drama and pantomime was a family affair for the Dibdens, and perhaps no family is more instrumental in creating not only the costume of the modern clown, but the fertile ground, through their shows, in which the character could grow and become the demonic, irreverent, unpredictable rascal we know it to be today. Dibden the Elder and his prolific career most certainly had a huge influence on his two sons, both eager to gain his approval and affection against a public that judged them harshly for their illegitimate status. What else can be said for Elder Dibden's membership to the secret society known as Freemasonry? The historical records, memoirs, and biographies are relatively empty in regards to this aspect of his life, which is hardly surprising for a secret society. But I did find a transcript from the Leicestershire Lodge number 2429, in which the minutes of a meeting in 1932 were documented. This was written This was written as a 100-year tribute to Brother Charles Dibden for his contributions to King, country, and of course, the craft. The opening of the transcript reads as such: Worshipful Master and Brethren, some 2 years ago our late revered Worshipful Brother Thorpe, placed in my hands a very old and tattered copy of the Book of Words of Brother Charles Dibden's Masonic pantomime, entitled Harlequin Freemason, with a request that I would give some account of the composer, together with any other information, and, if possible, a selection of the music of Harlequin Freemason. It has been said that the Freemasons of that day were not very particular as to the character of those they admitted into the membership of their lodges. Be that as it may, I prefer to drop a tear of sympathy over the human weaknesses and failings of a long-departed brother, and consider Dibden for the good he did and the great services he rendered to his country. End quote. Much of the transaction is a romantic review of his music created for sailors, but then it goes on to discuss his Masonic pantomime, with equal pride and adulation that one of the greatest Georgian songwriters was indeed one of their own. They share the words of the Masonic pantomime, which is a glorification of the Freemason Brotherhood, and how wonderful they are as human beings, with particular reference to Hiram Abiff, the master mason who helped Solomon build his temple. Quote, Lo, from amidst those sacred glades, where rests grand heroes, statesmen, kings, and other ancient mason shades, the ghost of Hiram Abiff springs, chief of the masons' noble arts, while of the master they make choice. Shall I not take an active part, and loudly join my brethren's voice? Fall, mystic figure, to our eyes, present a motley child of mirth, whose featly pranks shall all surprise, and give to vacant laughter birth. Move, kneel, stoop, stand, spring, dance, leap, run. Now mark me, for the charm is done. End quote. I find it interesting and bizarrely out of place that they have associated Hiram Abiff with one who brings forth a motley child of mirth, a trickster in spirit form. A strange association to make with a man who was murdered for not revealing the secrets of the mason's craft when accosted by 3 men. It's common in 3rd degree of Freemasonry for the masons to enact rituals which portray his brutal death as a symbol and lesson. The initiate learns that he must take the secrets he has learnt in the Brotherhood to his death. It appears Charles Dibden Sr. was privy to this information too, so we can infer he was at least of a 3rd degree himself. In this harlequinade, he likely associated the demonic harlequin character, who we now know represents the wild man, as the motley child of mirth brought through Freemason ritual. In other words, the jester spirit, or demon, is summoned by the master mason, Hiram, and performs on the stage to entertain the masses. The Harlequin Freemason. The transcript explains how the show ended with a procession of the principal Grand Masters from the creation to the present century, dressed in the habits of their respective ages and countries, of which there are 20 divisions under sections under their respective banners. The man must have known his fraternity's history very well to put on such a spectacle of historical costume. Now it is clear that Charles Dibden was a proud member of the Freemason Brotherhood and a prolific writer of British harlequinades. It only strengthens my suspicions that the moulding of the modern image of a clown by his son, Dibden Jr., into the image of the demonic was no accident or random occurrence. Beginning in October 1786, Charles Dibden published a weekly newspaper called The Devil that opens up talking of himself on the brink of suicide due to his poverty, before having a visitation by the devil, who convinces him to start a newspaper for the purpose of ridiculing the establishment in all industries. Much is gleaned from this mock conversation that hints at the importance of the Freemason's hand in this endeavour. Once the devil leaves, Dibden wrote of how the newspaper was given the green light by what he refers to as the Society. Quote, "The next day, being appointed for a consultation on the plan of our intended work, I imparted all that had been passed to the society, which I had no sooner done than it was agreed with one voice that whether the suggestion came really from the devil or my over-teeming imagination, it should forthwith, as far as it honestly could, be adopted. I was immediately appointed editor, ordered to pursue all newspapers, pamphlets, and other publications that could in any respect forward our design, to visit the theatres, and in hoot to take every step that could familiarise me with the reigning subjects of conversation. To this business I applied myself, and so successfully, in the opinion of the society, sorry, I'm stumbling on that word, so successfully, in the opinion of the society, that it was shortly determined this Monday, the October of 1786, should give to the world the first number of The Devil. This weekly newspaper failed after 21 issues. However, it wasn't long after following the devil's advice did Dibden's illustrious and lucrative career as a musician begin. Of course, none of this alone would be enough to strengthen the tie between clowns, demons, and secret societies. The future obsession in which members of the craft had with the new clown design certainly does. This is evidenced through the creation of the circuses and fraternity clown sects that are so laden with occult symbolism, one can't help raise an eyebrow or two. Whew, okay, there you go. That was pretty difficult to read. I think I have some editing I need to do along the way with this little section. But that's the first rough draft of kind of explaining how Charles Dibden, this Freemason, created a harlequinade where it talks about Hiram Abiff summoning a jester demon in the form of Harlequin during the performance. Okay. And I just thought it was funny that the demon he summoned looked like Harlequin in this. Or perhaps probably Harlequin. I assume that is the presents the motley child of mirth before the eyes of the brethren during this Freemasonic ritual. Okay, so the Freemasons have always been summoning demons, and they've manifested it in this harlequinade as looking like a Harlequin, from what I can interpret from this. But then the fact that he created a magazine called The Devil, in which he's talking to the devil in the opening chapters, and the devil is basically explaining to him how, look, you need to create this magazine. If you do this, I'll make you rich. So he goes to take what the devil says to him to the secret society, to the Freemasons he's a part of. And the Freemasons say, well, if the devil told you to do this, do it, we'll fund you. And he admits all of this in the first 4 pages of the magazine he published called The Devil. So he did publish The Devil, and it was funded by Freemasons. So this guy is full of it. And it was his sons who created the clown costume as the demonic visage modelled after the Rakshasa demons. So, yeah, this family, man. This family is so tied in with circuses and clowns and demons, it's ridiculous. And then I go on to explain in the next chapter, and sorry, not chapter, the next subheading, how Charles Dibden was actually involved with creating the word circus associated with what they were doing. So it says here, a former Astley employee turned rival named Charles Hughes. He travelled to Russia and performed for Catherine the Great at the Royal Palace at St. Petersburg. Hughes was therefore sometimes credited with introducing the circus to Russia, though his show was only small and involved trick riding on horses. The first Russian circus to incorporate a full complement of acts was by the Frenchman Jacques Tourneur, a first-rate equestrian who built a short-lived circus in St. Petersburg. But this was all horse tricks back then. These weren't circuses as we knew them, Then it says in 1782, along with Charles Dibden the Elder, the prolific songwriter and Freemason and author of pantomimes mentioned earlier, Hughes teamed up with him and opened a rival amphitheatre and riding school in London, and it was called the Royal Circus and Equestrian Philharmonic Academy. It was here the word circus became adopted as the standard name for all future events. That's right, Charles Dibden the Freemason was involved with popularising the word circus before his son turned the clown into a psychedelic monster at Sadler's Wells 18 years later. This family, man, they've been there since the start, and they're relatively unknown until I started mentioning them here, And then from this section, we go on to talk about the American circuses and how they became the big tops and how that all started and how P.T. Barnum got involved. This is a big, long section, this, and I'm still nowhere near finishing it. It's a long history, the clowning history of America. And it died out relatively quick in Britain after this time period, but it stayed alive in America, that's for sure. But yeah, so there you go, guys. A bit of a reading for you, a bit of an update with where the book's going. If you want to support the book, you can always go to the GoFundMe. The link's down below. Pre-orders are £100 or more. Quickly shilling for myself there. But yeah, that was fun. Fun to read. I'm just going to have a quick drink. There we go. Right. Let's see what's going on in the chat, shall we? Sorry, guys. I'm trying to quickly scroll back and catch up. We're talking about the millennial reign still, though. Let's get past that bit. My wife. I want to hear about Charles Dibden because I actually listened the other day. That was hard for me. Yes. Well, my wife was saying she's sick of hearing about Charles Dibden. Like, she's just sick of hearing the name Charles Dibden. I've just talked about him so much. She's like, and I said to her, "You'll forget one day. You won't remember any of it." And she's like, "No, I won't." I said, "All right then. So who is he?" And she couldn't remember anything I'd said about Charles Dibden at all. So I explained to her the full history of Charles Dibden. I gave her a breakdown of how he's involved with the clown thing, and she actually listened to that. So I hope you learned something else from what I just read there. You're learning about Charles bloody Dibden. She's like, "I never thought I'd know so much about some 18th century guy. Like, how did this happen?" Yeah. She married me. That's how it happened. I used to go to a church and the pastor would pick one Bible verse and ran for hours about nothing. Then people would go home thinking they're righteous and blessed. Yeah. At Wendy, exactly. It's very annoying, and partially I don't go to physical churches. Too many Pharisees and charlatans. Okay. Mind Unveiled is a great channel for those wanting to know more about the Oddfellows, as he talks about the Oddfellows in his recent videos. I've not really watched many of his recent. I've seen the odd one here and there. But yeah, I do need to do a deep dive on the Oddfellows, that's for sure. They're definitely involved in all of this. I spoke with an Oddfellow the other day. He said they do charity work of some sort. Surprised me that he was one kind of. He surprised me that he was one kind of. Yeah, well, they always hide under the guise of we're just a charitable organisation. That's how they get away with doing what they do. And I don't get me wrong, at the lower levels, I think a lot of the initiates do a lot of charity work. And they actually are none the wiser to what they're actually involved with, and are quite stupid and ignorant about what they've just signed themselves up to. But they always need to keep that public facade up, that they're just a charitable organisation, an old boys club where we just network. You know, that's the cover story for what's really going on at the higher levels. Absolutely. We're talking about the Shelf of Wonder at some point. A place to put all the puzzle pieces that don't quite fit yet. That's right. That's the Shelf of Wonder. That's what it's for. This is such a great chat. I'm glad you think so, Chelsea. The Billiken, Helikin. Yeah, the Billikens is the symbol for the Royal Order of the Jesters. That's true. Yeah, no, I'm going to get into all the Billiken stuff in the Royal Order of the Jesters breakdown. Don't get me wrong. And that itself is definitely linked to the clown, definitely, and a lot of other things. How's the book cover coming along? Says Drunk Wedding Photographer. It's not evolved much further than the initial book cover my wife has made as a mock-up. Maybe I can get, if you haven't seen it already, maybe I can quickly get it up for you guys so you can see it. But I just need to find where that is, because it's buried now. Oh, actually, while I'm here, I'll share with you quickly. So as you can see here, these are some of the random things I thrown together all the time. So here's the mock cover my wife has made so far for the book. I probably wanted to say the Nephilim looked like clowns, but this is just a rough draft idea concept. Do you guys like the way this looks? Is there something else you want from it that's more? I don't really want to have, I know it sounds silly, but I want as minimal amount of actual clowns on the book as possible, because I want this to be taken as a very serious look into anthropological cultures. You know, this is an anthropological study at the end of the day. The focus isn't really on silly wig wearing, juggling honk honk clowns. Okay, I know it sounds silly, but they're not really the focus of my entire study. You know, there's many other places it can go that are far more important in my eyes than just an actual silly clown itself. Do you know what I'm saying? But this is what I've got so far, and I think I like this. I think it kind of encapsulates my point without having to show a clown, if you get what I'm saying. And obviously you can see here, for example, you've got this clown that's on the chest of Athena, which is the Gorgon's head. Looks just like a clown. There's another representation of the Gorgon or Medusa next to it. You know, you've got the Anu people there with the smiles. You've got the Indian Theum there on the side as well. You've got these things as well, the Wanginas of Australia, which literally look like a bloody clown. You can't get more clownish than this. So I'm hinting at it everywhere, but without actually showing a clown. So this is the concept, the idea we've got so far, and this one in the background is a black and white clown kind of hidden there behind the writing, if you've noticed. So there's a concept right now, but there's nothing official. Nothing official. I think I'm a long way yet from having to worry about that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's going well, and I wouldn't be able to do it without my wife. She's the designer, definitely. My wife, yes, I know this stuff. When is the estimated time of completion? If I remember right, at the end of 2024 sometime. Probably, yeah, it's probably going to take that long. That's my guess. That's probably what I'm roughly aiming for. Probably about that long. Yeah, the end of 2024. Don't forget, I've also got to like format the book. I've got to edit the book as well and cut it down and actually check for spell checking and all that stuff. So I have to hire an editor to do all these things, you know. I've got to get all the law side of things down, the copyright laws down, all that sort of thing. I've got to also create the design for the book cover and the synopsis, and possibly even search for a publisher who might want to pick it up and get involved, you know. And if no publisher wants to pick it up and help with the sale of the book, I'll self-publish on Amazon. But you know, that's a process that might take a while. You know, I've got to actually finish writing the book first. As I can see, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not going to happen overnight. But I am keeping you all updated with where I'm up to on a regular basis, because I'm being as transparent about this process as I possibly can. But you know, a rough estimate is the end of next year. Fingers crossed. Maybe it'll bleed into the start of 2025 for all I know, you know. But I'm trying to do it as, you know, I could just smash out a quick book maybe and not reference anything, and it can be sloppy, or I could take my time and do it right and make this a professional tome that's actually packed with information that can be referenced itself as a scholarly work. You know, that's the aim. I'm not rushing this. Let's put it that way. They were travelling people to the Masons, not same one place. Freemasons, that's right. They were travelling people. They saw a lot of stuff. They learn a lot of things about other cultures. Just catching up with the chat now. We're almost at 2 hours, guys, so I'm gonna have to round it up in 10 minutes. This is your chance to ask any quick questions now at the end, and I'll try and answer them for you the best I can. But yeah, I'm gonna try and round it off at a nice round 2 hours. I've got about 8 minutes left, guys. So ask your questions now. If you've got any, let me know, and we'll start wrapping this up. And I'll try and give you my opinion on the odd topic or two if you're wondering what it is. I'm just gonna have a quick drink there. And also, I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a bit worn down and tired. I think you probably hear it in my voice. I think the illness is kicking back in again, so I'm not gonna be able to go for much longer. Bro, this work is too necessary. Please keep doing what you're doing. You never stop. Well, thank you. I'm glad you appreciate that. What are we having me check? Looks like we're talking about me here. What's going on? Don't worry, guys. He'll do an audio book too. Yeah, that I will do an audio book. I'll read the book as well. But that's probably going to take ages. But I will. I published a book first, a physical copy, and then I'll work on an audio book. That'll be my next project. Once I've published the book physically, I'll start working on reading it aloud and getting an audio book out eventually. That's probably my next project after the book's published. But even that's going to be a long process, making sure I have a quality studio mic and all that kind of stuff, you know. And then the editing, all the mistakes I make along the way out, it takes time. Something about milk thistle. Email me about all you know about milk thistle. Right now, I'm just taking a supplement I found online. But if you know anything particular about it that might be useful, just let me know in an email. Absolutely, I'll be glad to listen. Yeah, he's already told me he'll do it. He just wants to focus on getting the book written and published first. That's right. Um, he'll have a designated office space someday soon. He's going to be successful. Oh, fingers crossed. You should you should read the chapter numbers and headers. Yeah. That's a good idea. I'll get you involved. You're gonna end up reading some of this book too. Um, when I was little, the Barnum and Bailey circus was so surreal, bewildering, scary as well. It was an overload for my little brain. Wouldn't call it traumatic. Never went to the circus again though. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, circuses today, I don't think they're as much of a Freemasonic spectacle as they used to be in the original form. I think they're a lot more toned down, a lot more family friendly. I mean, the roots are obviously satanic, clearly. But I went to a circus not so long ago, at Butlins of all places, and there was nothing very suspect about what was going on there. I tried to break it down and I analyzed it, and it was just a bunch of performers doing flips and tricks, and there wasn't much ritual embedded in it. It was quite simple, and they had a clown there as well who was not very good. He wasn't a very good clown. It wasn't even that funny, to be honest. But he certainly didn't have much Nephilim stuff going on with the way he did his makeup either. So I don't think it's quite what it used to be. And I think the clown has changed as a symbol with the times. It's just a way to bring the demonic into the public, and back then it was their way of doing it was through the circus. And now I think they do it more through music and TV and modern art instead. Because people don't really go to the circus anymore. But yeah, have no doubts. The roots of all of these things are definitely rooted in Nephilim veneration, certainly. Everyone's saying my wife has a nice voice. If you guys didn't know, me and my wife do our own little fun podcast called Tales Under the Big Top. We have a link for that down below if you want to subscribe. We're due to make another episode. We're not very regular on posting there. We try to be, but you know, we're a young family with a toddler. We're busy people. So we plan on making a Christmas episode soon and releasing that, just talking about Father Christmas and how we refuse to lie to our child about it, and many other things about Christmas. That she likes a lot of the stuff that happens at Christmas, and I have my own opinions on Christmas, and we'll have a bit of a back and forth about it. Yeah, so if you want to listen to me and my wife talk, you can always go to the link down below and sign up to Tales Under the Big Top. But like I said, if we don't get an episode out for Christmas, we'll probably do one after Christmas about something else. It's sporadic and random, but it's always there as an extra stuff if you want to get involved. It's a bit of fun for us as well. Joseph Grimaldi, I can't remember because of AD. I like this chat a lot today because hooray, they're all talking about me. Yeah, but no, I will definitely get my wife involved in the audiobook for sure. Add a bit of class to the headers, won't it? What have I got? What are my headers called? Which one can she read? I'll get her to read. Can you imagine my wife saying, "The Clowns of the Mystic Shrine"? What else can she say? Biblical descriptions of the angels. The Nephilim genocide. I'm trying to see if I have anything outrageous she can say, which I think would be quite funny. I'm gonna add some outrageous subheadings into this book just so I can listen to my wife say them and laugh about it. It's all pretty straight edge stuff right now. So yeah, I'll come up with something. Never mind. What else have we got? 'Cause, 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 Good cover. I threw that together, to be honest. Some people like the book cover. That's good. I think that's much more interesting than the depiction of a modern clown. I think it looks great. Oh, good. Thing is, there's a lot of pictures there that I need to go get the rights for as well to use in my book cover. I might not get permission for a lot of those, which is why it is a bit more of a rough draft. You know, we're gonna have to do a lot of back and forth and making deals and paying people out to be able to use. That's what the GoFundMe's for at the end of the day. You know, it's to pay for those type of things as well. But hopefully we can get the rights to a lot of these images and use them on the front book cover. I'm in two minds about how to do the book as well, whether I should have images in the first draft, first editions. I'm thinking I might release just a text-only edition with all the information that's necessary, and then I might make a bigger, more fancy, more expensive with pictures version, a hardcover version with pictures at a later date, maybe like a second edition, with any edits that may be necessary as well. You know, that I may miss on the first edition or rewrites or something like that. So there's a long process to the whole book thing, but I'm thinking for now, just to save time and cost, I may not add images to the first edition of the book. It'll just be text. It'll be like Gary Wayne's book, Genesis. It's packed with information. It's all explained thoroughly, you know, but there won't be images in the first book. But maybe on the front cover only. Again, these are all just details I'm ironing out as time goes on. So people like the cover though, that's good. I do like that design myself. The Santa episode is coming soon, I will make it. Yeah, we will. He was a crap clown, to be fair, I stand by that. Yeah, the Butlins. Someone reached out to me. Speaking of Barnum and Bailey, someone reached out to me and said they know an ancestor of Barnum, and she still lives on his estate or something like that. And he tried to arrange me to have a phone call with her, and that just never panned. I said, yeah, sure, make it happen, and it never panned out. So I don't know. I'm still waiting on that. But it'd be fun to maybe I could talk to one of his relatives. Absolutely, I'd like that. I could ask loads of questions. It's like people are tapering out now. It's time for it's dinner time, isn't it, for you guys in America? It's time to go make some food and relax for the evening. Do it right, Paul, says Shibi. Absolutely. Oh, we're talking about how my wife met me. That's nice. The timing was something else. Oh, that's nice. Sorry, guys. I'm forgetting about all the viewers now. I'm looking at something else here about myself. Letting go of wanting someone. That's when I came. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's true. You know, before I met my now wife, I'd also given up on even looking for anybody or relationships or trying. You know, and that's when you suddenly meet somebody. That's usually when it always happens, isn't it? And it sounds like she had the same experience as well. You know, I think this is the thing. You know, when you're trying to find a relationship, you kind of smell of desperation, don't you? And then no one wants you. Everyone's like unattracted by that. But when you stop trying and you don't seek a relationship for validation, you know, and you give up on that prospect of that's what you need to be happy, that's when people start coming into your life, isn't it? You know, and there seems to be quite a pattern for everybody, absolutely. And maybe God had a hand in all of that, as my wife is admitting here, surprisingly. Talking about lodges. It's all right, guys. I'm gonna come up to the chat now. I think I'm at the end of the chat here. Let's just see the final comments. What is the theme music you use for your videos from? I want you to get together. Right, so get your pen and paper ready. That is the last 5 seconds of a song called Rose Rouge by an acid jazz musician called Saint Germain. And it's from, I think, the early 2000s, that song, I think. Maybe 2003, 2005, I think it came out, I think. The album is called Tourist. I used to listen to that album on repeat when I painted in my shed as a teenager. Non-stop. I love that album. There's hardly any lyrics other than that random "I want you to get together" on repeat in that one song. It's just noise. It's just acid jazz. It's repetitive, long music to zone out to while making and creating stuff. That's what I used to do with that. It's music you don't have to think about, but it's also technically proficient as well, which is why I enjoy it as a musician. And I just really like that song, and I thought that phrase, "I want you to get together," that's what I want. I want to create a community. I want people to come and join in and get along with each other in the conspiracy world, because there's a lot of infighting, and that was as much as I thought about it, and that's why I use it. And I just really like that song. So if you're wondering, if you want to hear the song, it's called Rose Rouge by Saint Germain. So go check it out. And check out the album Tourist as well. It's what I would consider a classic in the acid jazz world. And it's good. It's good fun. We're talking about Butlins, okay. Yeah. What's my wife saying here? Paul didn't understand our love for it, but he secretly liked it. Yeah, it was alright. It was okay. Tourist is an awesome album. So people know about it. Yeah, there you go. If you don't know about Tourist, it's a great album. It really is. It's good. It's good. They don't make them like that anymore. I'll say that much. I like the intro too. Some people really hate the intro. Some people really hate the "I want you to get together." Some people, not everybody, but every now and then I get like maybe 3 times a month, twice a month, I get a comment raging at my intro sound and outro sound. They just hate it. It's like, "What is this horrible noise? Why have you done this?" And it's like, "It's disgusting. Change it." And I'm like, no, it's tough. Deal with it. Like, it's my channel. I'll use that clip if I want to. That's basically my response every time. Saint Germain the Alchemist, Rosicrucians. Yeah, I never thought that deep about the name when I was growing up as a teenager, and I still haven't thought that deep about it now. It's just good music. It's just good music. Just go listen to it. I don't think the guy thought much about anything to do with alchemy or anything like that when he made it. I don't fall under the everything is demonic category of conspiracy. Some people just make music for music's sake. Sometimes it does happen. I wouldn't say he was a particularly famous musician or anything. He was a relatively underground artist. I wouldn't say they were like in the charts, groundbreaking. Everybody listened to them. They weren't that type of influential musician or anything. See, look at him. All right, we'll be going back next year. Yeah, we probably will go back next year. Yeah. I knew it. Awesome, says Captain Krampus. If you only just figured that out, Captain Krampus. How long have you been subscribed to me now? Fair enough. I personally love the intro, Paul. Ignore them, yeah. I interpreted the song clip as to get your act together. Yeah, that too. Sort it out. Clean your room. Music-wise, check out the Motois. Motoi Sakuraba. I'll check them out at your suggestion there, sure. And a very eclectic artist of Ludovic Navarre. Yeah, I see. I didn't even know that. I've never been one to follow artists. I've never had an idol. Do you know what I mean? If I like the sound of the song, I'll take it on board. But I'm not gonna go and find out about the person who made it. So you're teaching me something there. That's fair enough. Explain to Anthony why he should try to make friends with Nephilim's demons. I know this shouldn't be explained, but clearly some people don't understand. I'm guessing that shouldn't make friends. I must have missed something here. Maybe some guy. They can't be as bad as humans, can they? Stop what? How do I make a Nephilim my friend? Well, I've actually made a video about DMT jesters, and it's titled DMT jesters, they are not your friends. Okay, so go and watch that. And I've already tried to explain it there years. It's like 7 years old, that video now. I might be a bit edgy and dramatic in it, you know, and I'm a bit younger than I am today, you know, whatever. I had less of a sense of humour then. I shouldn't have to explain to you why it's a bad idea to try and make friends with demons. You know, it's pretty self-explanatory. They have nothing but your pain and misery at their underlying reasoning for existing. Like, they're not there to help you in any way. They're not your friends. They don't have your best interests at heart at all. You're just a tool to them to experience senses vicariously through you, if you allow them. The whole agenda is just to get you to allow them in so they can use you. And once they're done with you, they will kill you. They don't care. It's as simple as that. The Nephilim are disembodied spirits on the other side of the veil. They are here right now on Earth with us and always have been for a very long time. They're not in some special place or another dimension necessarily. They're kind of here on Earth with us, but without a body. So their essence, their spirit, their influence, their soul is still here on Earth. But we just can't perceive them visually because they're kind of in like a fractaled matrix, weird, behind the scenes version of this world. And we're not supposed to see that side of the world, because if we saw it all the time, we wouldn't be able to function properly. We'd go insane. Okay. But they're stuck there. That's it, really. They've been interacting with us through many means, through portals and us opening up channels to them through our own rituals and bodies for millennia. People make deals with them there, and their existence is kind of kept a secret in the West, but it's very well understood everywhere else. That's basically. And the same about music, Paul, says Shivia. Each their own. Music's a very personal subject to everybody. No one likes their music taste being blasted. No one does. I understand that. It's like that film Life of Pi, making friends with a Bengal tiger. Total farce. You're the prey. Nephilim are predators. Exactly. Yeah, not a good idea. I'd avoid it at best. You know, it's probably a good idea not to do that. They want to be you. That's true. Sounds like humans. No, they're not. There's something else. They're beyond human. Their capacity for cruelty, I would say, really goes beyond human if you give them the chance. I know humans can do some pretty heinous things. Don't get me wrong, okay? But these things were food to them. Okay, it's a more terrifying passivity towards cruelty towards humans. It's kind of like they don't see us as creatures worthy of caring about our feelings or pain. Do you get what I mean? It's like how you would imagine a robot would treat a living entity when killing it. It doesn't care. Did you get what I mean? It doesn't even emote with a conscience of empathy about murdering or eating a human being alive. Like, they don't think of you that way. You're just prey to them. Do you get what I mean? You're a lesser entity. You're like an insect to them, and they view you with just as much disdain or general passivity. Basically, it's not. It's really brutal. Like, I wouldn't compare them to humans. You know, they consider themselves way beyond that, and it'd be stupid of us to even consider thinking about it in that term, in that way. You know what I mean? Captain Crapper, thanks for the Thanks for the donation. Keep the intro. Well, I have to now. I don't know. You've paid me for it. Fair enough. I'm keeping the intro, guys. Captain Krampus said so. Absolutely. Well, I was going to do it anyway, but yeah, absolutely. I'm not changing anything. Manchester music used to fascinate me. I'm old. Yeah, well, that's close to home for me, you know, and a lot of good stuff came out of Manchester over the years. Nephilim do not see us as something to care about. We are a means to an end for them. Exactly. Yeah. Um, we ancient Aramaic Cherokee Israelites used to refer to the fallen angels as water babies. Sailors refer to them as mermaids or mermen who tempted them to the abyss of the sea. Yeah, a lot of post-flood Nephilim definitely built a marine kingdom, I think, and had a lot of hybridized human entities who are living in the sea. This seems to happen quite a lot. True. There's a lot of historical encounters of people dealing with fish gods of some kind, especially post-flood. We all float down here, says Pennywise the Clown. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I get you. Right, guys, I'm going to have to call it a night now. I've been going for quite a while, over 2 hours. It's been a good therapy session. It's been good for me to get something off my chest as well. I hope you liked the little presentation about the ridiculous state of performance art and the evil Nephilim channeling artists in the modern art scene out there who are hiding behind the veil of performance, and how they're all just charlatans and thieves who have stolen their designs and ideas from pagan ancestor spirit worship cults and then passed it off as their own in the Western white cube gallery, you know. Preying on people's ignorance to not realize where these things actually come from, obviously. But it's all just a way of channeling demons, bringing it to the forefront, getting people to clap along and say, oh, how edgy, how avant-garde, how forward-thinking and brave. It's all a load of bollocks. Don't fall for it. It's nonsense. But yeah, guys, I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with another therapy session, episode 50. Maybe I'll try and do something special for that. You know, it's a big number. It's a big number. Why not? Like I said, me and my wife will try and have an episode of Tales Under the Big Top out soon. Links down below for that. If you like what I do, consider support me on Patreon as a regular supporter on there. You get access to some extra content. And also that it really is the best way to support me in a consistent way. And you can always become a member on YouTube as well for $2, but you won't get access to anything extra by doing that. But it is a cheaper way to support me if you just want to kick back a couple of dollars here and there, you know. But yeah, guys, that's great. And also links to support the book are down below as well if you're interested in pre-ordering yourself a copy there. All the details in the description if you read that. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening. And God bless.